You know, I've always been fascinated by the Renaissance and how it transformed Europe. The explosion of art, science, and philosophy is just incredible. But I've been reading lately, and it seems like there's a lot more to the story. I keep coming across references to the influence of Islamic knowledge. What's that all about?
You're absolutely right, Alex. The Renaissance was indeed a pivotal moment for Europe. But many of the ideas and knowledge that fueled it actually have roots in the Islamic Golden Age. It's a period when Muslim scholars made groundbreaking contributions to various fields: science, medicine, mathematics, philosophy, and more. All of this was deeply influenced by Islamic teachings from the Qur'an and Hadith.
Really? I knew there was some connection, but I didn't realize it was so significant. What sparked this intellectual movement in the Islamic world?
It all begins with the Quran. The very first revelation to Prophet Muhammad, PBUH, was the word Iqra, which means read. This single word set the tone for the Islamic emphasis on knowledge and learning. The Quran consistently encourages believers to observe, reflect, and understand the natural world. For instance, there's a verse in Surah Al-Baqarah that talks about how the creation of the heavens and the earth, the alternation of night and day, and the ships that sail the seas are signs for those who use reason.
That's fascinating. So, the Quran isn't just a spiritual guide, it's also a call to explore the world intellectually?
Exactly. And the Hadith complements this by stressing the importance of seeking knowledge. There's a famous Hadith that says, "Seeking knowledge is an obligation upon every Muslim." This wasn't limited to religious knowledge. It was understood as a pursuit of all kinds of knowledge, whether it's science, medicine, or philosophy. This is why you see such a flourishing of intellectual activity in the Islamic world during the Golden Age.
That makes sense. So, what were some of the major contributions from Islamic scholars during this time?
There were many, but let's start with science and medicine. Take Al-Razi, for example, known in the West as Rhazes. He was a pioneer in medicine, writing a comprehensive medical encyclopedia called Al-Hawi, which was used in Europe for centuries. Then there's Ibn al-Haytham, who's often called the father of optics. His work laid the groundwork for the scientific method by insisting on experimentation and observation to understand the nature of light and vision.
Ibn al-Haytham. Was he the one who figured out how we see things by understanding how light reflects off objects and into our eyes?
Yes, that's him. His Kitab al-Manazir, the Book of Optics, was revolutionary. It challenged the existing Greek theories of vision and introduced a new, more accurate understanding. This work wasn't just limited to the Islamic world. It was translated into Latin and became a critical text in Europe, influencing scholars during the Renaissance.
I see. So, these contributions weren't just preserved, they were actively expanded upon. And they made their way to Europe, helping to kickstart the Renaissance?
Exactly. The Islamic world played a crucial role in preserving the knowledge of ancient civilizations, particularly Greek and Persian works. But they didn't just preserve it, they critiqued, refined, and expanded on it. Scholars like Ibn Sina, known in the West as Avicenna, made significant advancements in both medicine and philosophy. His Book of Healing wasn't just about treating physical ailments, it was also a philosophical treatise that explored the nature of the soul, logic, and metaphysics.
I've heard of Avicenna. His works were central to the development of medicine in Europe, right?
Yes, his works were translated into Latin and used in European universities for centuries. And it wasn't just Avicenna. There was also Al-Khwarizmi, who's often called the father of algebra. His book, Kitab al-Jabr wal Muqabala, introduced algebraic concepts that are still in use today. In fact, the word algebra itself comes from al-Jabr.
That's amazing. So, without these Islamic scholars, the Renaissance might not have happened the way it did, or at all.
Precisely. The knowledge that fueled the European Renaissance was in many ways a continuation of the intellectual traditions of the Islamic Golden Age. Scholars in places like Al-Andalus and Sicily translated Islamic works into Latin, making them accessible to European thinkers. This exchange of knowledge was a key factor in Europe's intellectual revival.
It's incredible to think about how interconnected our histories are. We often talk about the Renaissance as this isolated event, but it's clear that it was built on a foundation laid by earlier civilizations, particularly the Islamic world.
That's true. And it's a reminder that human progress is a shared journey. The advancements made by Islamic scholars weren't just for the Muslim world. They were for all of humanity. Their work laid the groundwork for much of what we know today, showing how Islamic teachings on knowledge and learning have profoundly shaped our world.
This really changes how I see history. It's not just about individual cultures, but about how they've interacted and built upon each other's achievements. Thanks for sharing this, Hafsa. I've learned so much.
I'm glad I could share it with you, Alex. It's important for all of us to recognize and appreciate the diverse contributions to human civilization. After all, seeking knowledge is a journey that belongs to everyone.
Absolutely. And I'm definitely inspired to keep learning more about these connections. Maybe next time, we can dive deeper into how these ideas spread from one culture to another.
I'd love that. Knowledge is an endless ocean, and there's always more to explore.